let's go speak to the homeowners. And we both walked in.
Son Colin was a football player through high school, was he not?
Yes.
What was his number?
34, I believe.
And was that for 34 Fairview?
I don't think so.
Me, my husband, Trooper Proctor, and Trooper Bukaki.
We did not go outside because we had no idea what was going on outside. We were sound asleep until my sister came into my bedroom.
Nevercracker wouldn't like a photo of somebody on his lawn with drinks in their hands, correct?
The cartoon character, Nevercracker?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
She like grabbed her, like she put her arm around her and she said in front of me, she's like, you're coming with me, you're coming with me.
Can we make sure we're welcome here? Nobody extended the invite to me. I didn't hear the invite extended to you.
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house.
You knew that if you gave Trooper Proctor the name of your nephew, that he would have to interview him, correct?
Objection.
All right, I'm going to sustain that objection.
The taillight was broken, correct?
That's correct.
And shattered.
Yes.
Parts of it that were falling onto the ground.
I don't think there was anything falling on the ground at that point.
So now we do have evidence that that taillight, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, was broken or broken more once it was inside the Sally Port in Canton PD's custody.
You're going to have to rephrase that. I don't understand the broken more part.
During the removal process, that light was broken even more. Do you recall
No.
if pieces and parts were being broken off and shattered while he was removing it?
Not at all.
John O'Keefe is laying on the front lawn of a house. We have no idea. The statements from the three people, we need to figure out what happened last night.
Nobody put John O'Keefe anywhere but where he was found, and that included his girlfriend.
Fuck. Either myself or Sergeant Lank told Miss McCabe that she needs to wake up the homeowners. We need to speak to them.
Is that because that house belonged to a Boston police officer?
No, it's because it requires probable cause, as you know, which we did not have.
I never spoke to my sister on the phone that morning.
Who else was in your bedroom that morning?
Me and my husband.
You and Brian Albert were the only two individuals who could have answered those calls that morning, correct?
We're the only two people in the room, besides the dog.
I think you're mischaracterizing the relationship.
You didn't want your kids or your nephew to have to tell the police what they saw, what they heard, and what they did that night.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that true?
That is not true. I didn't mention Colin because I didn't consider him as part of the group that we were hanging out with after the waterfall. I didn't even think of him.
Didn't even think about it.
No.
Explains the January 28th text where you were threatening to fuck up his lawn, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Literally crossed paths with him. He left, and I didn't consider him being a part of the group that was there. I also didn't mention the people that my son had previous, because I didn't consider them as part of the people that I was with when I got home.
You weren't trying to protect your daughter.
No. Of course we discussed the case, but just everything that was going on, we were trying to figure out what happened.
Nevercracker. What was sort of the origination of that?
It's a joke. It's so my son Dylan, who is my littlest one, he was cutting across John's lawn one day, coming home from school, walking. This was before John had a fence that went this way, like on Pleasant Street. So it would just cut off like a couple of minutes. He ran across John's lawn one day. This is my littlest son, who I don't even know at the time. He might have been like 9, 10. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. And John yelled something to him, "Hey, kid, get off my lawn." So John was just making a joke. So Dylan got scared. He ran home and told my wife, Julie. And then Julie in turn called, called Jen maybe and said, "Hey, John just yelled at Dylan." And I think Jen reached out to John, and John felt terrible. And John came down the street. John asked what kind of candy Dylan liked. And John brought Dylan a bag of candy and just said, "Hey, I was just kidding." It was just, so from that point on, we called him Mr. Nevercracker, and it was a joke between John. John thought it was funny. And
What else is that in the background?
that's John's.
And
all right. So here we are in week 3. We're going into week 3. Let me just shut this off. I'm just getting the hang of this. Is there still an echo? Let's make sure my mic is there. So okay, cool. So we're going into week 3, and I think that what I've seen is a lot of people are starting to be like, I hate to admit it, but I'm starting to agree with you. And it's surprising because I don't think that they've really shown too much yet. But I think it's just the matter, and like a lot of people are, like other commentators are saying things like, oh, we don't even know where Lally's going. He's all over the place. And I kind of get that too a little bit. But at the same time, I think he's trying to debunk all of the conspiracies before he lays out the hard evidence, right? He's trying to get you to see and trust all of these people before bringing on the ones that are really going to be challenged, which are going to be, you know, Proctor, Jen McCabe. I think those are probably going to be, or Colin Albert maybe. I mean, Colin Albert. So the thing is, some of these witnesses, to me, I just don't understand. I mean, they're not going to give us any more information about what actually happened, like Brian Albert, because he barely even knew them. I don't even know if he talked to them at the bar. So his cross-examination is going to be all about, you know, specifics about his house, what time he went to bed, like that kind of crap. So, but it's not going to give us any more information about what happened. And so that's why, for me, I'm just like, I mean, it's interesting. It will probably be a little tense, but a lot of the questions that they're going to ask, it's going to be similar to what they were doing to the wife. It's like eye roll questions that we know that, you know, it's not going to lead anywhere. Yeah, maybe they didn't say everyone that was at the house at the time, or, you know, maybe they had a conflicting statement in the past at some point, but it's not giving us anything. So if we think about the stuff that's been debunked so far, we were told for a year, and this whole misinformation campaign too, that's been run by Karen Reed. And we know that because of the whole Turtle Boy connection. Maybe she wasn't pulling all the strings, but it kind of seems like she was. I don't know if we'll ever know about that. I have a feeling that we will. I think that we're going to see, I think they're probably waiting for this case to be over before they do any additional charges, either with her or with Turtle Boy or with her family. I think it's important to note that her family is not testifying in this case, because if they know there's pending charges coming, they don't want to testify to anything that's going to incriminate them in a, you know, a conspiracy case or whatever it may be. The 200 key cycles, I don't know. That was I think Grant came up with that theory about the 200 key cycles, and it's valid. Like, if they could have erased that, you know, that event, but they are saying that they can prove, or there's some data. And so the key cycle data, it's like the EDR, but Toyota and Lexus, Toyota TechStream, is a more advanced EDR system. So it's not just the plain black box. It has a lot more data. So maybe the EDR was erased, maybe this other TechStream information wasn't. And so who knows what they got out of it. And that's what I'm really waiting for. But I have a feeling that Lally is not going to pull out that hard evidence until we've heard from all the witnesses. Because once the prosecution rests, then it's the defense's turn to bring out their witnesses, their experts, all that. And so I think, is it verified? So, I mean, if it's verified, that's really interesting. I wouldn't put it past them, but I mean, if that is the case, then that's, you know, there's another case brewing in the background, I think, for whatever it may be, whether Turtle Boy was paid or not. Like, I don't feel like I don't know if that matters. I mean, to some degree, I guess it does, but even if he was just getting straight information from Karen Reed and putting it out as fact, as journalism, when it's clearly not. It's clearly one-sided propaganda to sway public opinion in her favor. And, you know, there was only 1 inch of snow, so there's no reason why they wouldn't have seen the glass or the taillight, but they found the glass. And I think last week when we saw them using the snowblower to reveal the glass, I mean, I thought that was a huge aha moment, because I didn't understand the whole snowblower thing until I saw it. So basically there was snow cover covering everything. And they started using the snowblower because I think they saw that some of the snow was like pink. So it wasn't it wasn't blood spots. It was like this patches of pink snow. So there was a lot of blood. That was another lie, is there was only 6 droplets of blood. No, they only took 6 samples. So there was a lot of blood under the snow. And so they slowly like blew off the top layers of the snow. And honestly, like, I don't know how else you would do it now that I understand like what the issue was. I always wondered why would there be blood spots on the top of the snow? I mean, that's what I was thinking in the past. Why would there be blood spots on the top of the snow if she hit him before it started snowing? And, you know, I was right, because there weren't blood spots on top of the snow. It was layers beneath the snow. And so they had like uncovered those layers, and that's how they found the glass, because the glass was in that general vicinity with his body and his cell phone. And so once they got down to close to the ground, that's when they scooped up the samples. And so, I mean, to me, that made a lot more sense than what we were originally told. Oh, they just have it in solo cups and yada, yada, yada. But the problem is, with the whole defense focusing so much on the solo cups, is that it was his blood anyway. So it's not even really being used as evidence in this trial. Like, we know there was blood on the ground. It wasn't the killer's blood. It was his blood. So, but I think the whole thing about there being no blood, you know, that was the whole conspiracy. That's why it happened inside the house, because there was not much blood out there, right? Which has turned out to be a lie. And so now we know there was a lot of blood, and it was just 6 samples of that blood. The cocktail glass was uncovered right in that general area when they were snowblowing. We saw them uncover it. And like, there's people on X that are saying, oh yeah, they probably planted that there. But we could see the even layer of snow cover in that area. So like, there's no way they could have planted it under the snow without disturbing the snow. So no, it was not planted. It was there. And so that's a big thing, is that was kind of cleared up. The 1 inch of snow, there was blood, a lot of blood. And then, you know, the things that I think are questionable are just, you know, why did it take the CERT team until 4:30 to come out? And I don't think it's a fact of it's a cover up or if it's anything. It's just like, it just seems like there should have been an officer, you know, posted outside the house the whole time until the CERT team arrived. Maybe it was too windy for a tent. Like, that explains that. But I mean, a lot of people now though are saying, well, maybe he didn't go in the house. And so I don't know why people's minds are changing about that. Like, a lot of people are saying now, oh, well, it still could have been an accident. And so I don't know why people's minds are changing about that, because we haven't even looked at the cell phone data yet, which that was the whole reason. That was the whole way that they put him inside the house to begin with, was seeing his steps or the flights of stairs climbed. And so we haven't even seen that yet. And I think people might just be believing. I think that Chris and Julie Albert, I think they did a good job. Julie was very nervous. She didn't want to reveal things. They both didn't want to say, they both got very uncomfortable in talking about Colin, but I feel like they all did, because they know that what the aim is. They know that the aim is to implicate this kid. And so, I mean, that's why they're nervous. It doesn't mean that they're trying to hide something necessarily. It could, but I don't think so. And so then the other two, Brian and Nicole Albert, I feel like she seemed really honest, really did not seem like she was trying to hide anything at all. I thought her cross-examination was kind of like really in poor taste, a lot of the questions they were asking her. And I mean, I think we're probably going to see that with Brian Albert as well. I think it's probably going to be worse, but we'll see. And I think that's probably the first thing that's going to happen Monday morning is Brian Albert's cross-examination. I don't understand what they think they're going to get out of him. I don't know if they can bring up his phone call to Brian Higgins, his butt dial, because that was part of the Fed investigation. I mean, maybe they can. I think maybe they did get that, so maybe he's going to be questioned about that. But I mean, and then I saw something today. I don't know, like Grant was arguing with someone saying that I don't know if he was saying that this is really what happened or if he was just saying it could be something private like this, but he was arguing with someone outside the courthouse saying Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were having bisexual relations in the basement and like that's what's on their phone or something, and that's why they wanted to destroy their phones. I don't believe that. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think he might have just been saying it as an example of, why you can't just violate people's privacy. But imagine, I mean, that would totally sink the entire case though. I mean, they might, if it was true, they wouldn't want that out there, but at the same time, that would put an end to a lot of questions. I don't think that's true though. So then we have, I was watching, a few people were like, oh, the young jerks are like talking about you. I couldn't find the clip where they were, but I'm curious. So I watched some of their show trying to find it, and they're trying to say that Lieutenant Gallagher is saying that the taillight was broken in the Sally port. And I've seen a few creators like cutting up that clip where he's being interrogated by Alan Jackson, and he's not understanding what he's saying. He's like, what do you mean, like broken more? Not broken more. Like it was broken, it was shattered, but not broken more. But they're cutting out that part where he clarifies, no, it was not broken more. And so it's just so grimy for creators to be pushing that out and to try to mischaracterize it. Like, I don't understand. Like, don't people have integrity anymore? And so, I don't know. I just think that I mean, that's some misinformation that's come out. And then I just think the whole take on, she lied about, what are they saying Nicole Albert lied about? Because she said the dog got out of the yard to attack that other dog. But like that night, she said the dog didn't get out of the yard. So they're like, she's lying. Because I don't even know. I don't know what they're looking for really. Because they're grasping at straws so hard. I mean, the whole Katie McLaughlin thing, I don't think that was ever cleared up. So on Monday, the first thing Monday morning, Yannetti was like, well, we got pictures of Katie McLaughlin at a baby shower 8 months ago or whenever it was. Maybe 8 months before the 2022 thing. He's like, so we want to impeach her for perjury or whatever. I don't think that was ever cleared up. But honestly, I don't understand what they're doing. And like, to some degree, I think they're playing to social media. And I think Lally is too. Lally knows what all of the conspiracy theories are. And I think he's focused on, kicking them out one by one, disproving them one by one before he does the big reveal, has the big witnesses and the big evidence come out. And I think the defense team also is playing to that. So, because I don't think Katie McLaughlin has any impact on the jury or anything, because a lot of other people heard her say, I hit him. Karen Reed's on TV saying, I hit him. So whether she was friends with Caitlin Albert or not, I think it's irrelevant. And like the fact that they're going to bring up the baby shower pictures to say, oh, look, they are close friends, that doesn't prove anything. Like she said on the stand that they have mutual friends and that they've only hung out in group settings. And then they're going to bring a picture of a baby shower, her in a group setting with Caitlin Albert to prove that they're closer friends. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why I just don't think Yannetti would do that if it wasn't so big in social media. Because social media people are picking this stuff up and running with it. Anything that he puts out there. So it's just the whole misinformation machine. But I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to the facts of the case. And it's interesting. I'm hearing a lot of people now saying, well, even if she didn't go inside the house, that doesn't mean she did it on purpose, which is true. We don't know what the evidence is or why they think that she did it intentionally. But I mean, don't these people feel bad that they're harassing innocent people? Like, I just don't understand that piece at all. It's like, and a lot of the things are resurfacing about Colin Albert, like the picture with his supposed black eye. And I don't even think he has a black eye in that picture. I was looking at, so it's the picture where he's like shirtless with his brother. And it looks like, I think he just has a cheekbone, because like Chris Albert looks like that too. And there's a few pictures where Colin Albert has that kind of, that hollowness right here on both sides. And Chris Albert definitely has it. So I just don't even think it was a black eye. And then the picture of his knuckles, which is way too late for it to have any relevance to this. Because if his knuckles were cut up like that from fighting with John O'Keefe, that would be healed within 2 weeks, tops. And I think that picture was late February. So it's just like, I just don't understand what people think is okay to do. It's just like, what is wrong with these people? You're implicating innocent people for no reason, for absolutely no reason, with no evidence. And it's really odd. And so I don't know. I think there's like levels. So I think the skid level is like turtle rider, like hardcore turtle riders it doesn't matter how many times Turtle Boy has lied. They're sticking with him no matter what. And then there's the people that might listen to him a little bit, but they don't follow him enough to know that he lies all the time. I think that they're the ones that will kind of just fall off silently. They'll just probably stop interacting or talking about it because they probably still don't want to admit that they were so wrong. But the hardcore turtle riders are going to harass people no matter what forever, even if she's found guilty, I think. And it's just bizarre. It's bizarro. But I do think that what Lally's doing, it's vindicating a lot of people piece by piece. I mean, her taillight, showing her taillight not broken at 8 in the morning. I mean, that's a huge one. And like Sean in the Gulf is changing his story. A lot of them are changing their stories now where they're saying that, oh, there still could be a red piece to be planted, blah, 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 whatever. But that's not what they were saying before. I mean, do people really still believe that she hit his car backing up and that's where she busted her taillight? I mean, if anything, if for whatever reason it did make contact with the taillight and not the bumper and it broke it, you would have seen those pieces fall out because when she's driving away, you can see that the bulbs are out. Like, she did not hit it hard enough to do that, first of all. And I mean, and then we saw the first day, we saw them all shoveling the driveway. There were no pieces. There was nothing on the ground. And so I just don't understand like what is left, because at this point, if there were no red pieces, I mean, maybe there was, there's still probably tiny pieces maybe still there that we can't see, but they wouldn't have had anything to plant for the most part. So like Proctor seizes her car, drives it back to the Sally Port. He like breaks off a few pieces and puts them in his pocket and then plants them there. But the thing is, his shoe was also found in his hat, right? So did he plant the shoe and the hat? And how would he get the shoe? How would he get the hat? Like, it was under the snow. And it's like so obvious at this point. It's like, I mean, I would think, yeah, possibly something could have been planted, but I don't think there was any need to. Where did her taillight break then? Because it didn't break in the driveway. And I mean, I think, so the solo cups, I just think that that's kind of been explained a little bit better. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but I think the jury, because it's not even a factor in the case. They can throw that evidence out and it doesn't matter. But I think that was just used to kind of say that there was no blood at the scene of the crime. And now we know that there was a ton of blood. It was just all on the ground under the snow. And, you know, being under the snow means it was there for a while. And the fact that Karen was asking Jen McCabe and the guys in the ambulance, how long can you be in the snow without a jacket before dying? She's the only one that would have known how long he actually was there for, right? Because everyone else is like, I don't know when the fuck he got here, right? So it's just so weird that people are still clinging on to it. I think that people are going to start using their brain. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Lally does next. I mean, the whole Rick Green report, I was pulling this up because I want to look at what his report actually said, because what they presented way back in April, the Rick Green report was like the biggest part of it, because that's kind of what, I mean, for me, that's why I believed it. I didn't see the report at first, but what they said in court and what's in the report are not the same. And so if I look, I'm too big. So if I make this a little bit bigger. So basically Rick Green, and it's like he's out of St. Petersburg. So, I mean, that to me is just odd in itself that he, I don't know, because experts are usually like in the major cities. It's just, I don't know. So blah, blah. He has McCabe and O'Keefe's phones. How long to die in cold, 2:27 a.m. and whatever. So it's the DB wall file. So it doesn't specifically say in here. It just says it was deleted by the user. It's about open tabs. So the thing is, the browser state.db dataset in general, it doesn't mean that it's like it automatically deletes. So it's weird that he's like saying it was deleted. I mean, I just think that in general, it's like mischaracterizing what it even is. Because once you close a browser, it deletes that information. So it's not like it deleted the search. The search would still be saved. And so that's why it's kind of sketchy to begin with. And so 2 screenshots were deleted. And that's the thing too. Like, I wonder if all this stuff really was deleted or not. I'm very skeptical about whether it was. And so 6:23, 6:24 a.m. That's like pretty much like, I think he was in the ambulance at that point. Oh, another huge thing is how they showed that video of Jen McCabe walking into sneaking into the house. During the beginning, probably the first week. But then I think it was Officer Good was like, yeah, I told Jen McCabe to go in the house and wake up the homeowners. And so it wasn't that she was sneaking away. It was that she was told to go wake them up. And so it's just like so much mischaracterization that has happened over the past year. It was like probably one of the biggest propaganda machines I've ever seen in a criminal case. Ever. And it's still working, because I still think a lot of creators are still on that side. a lot of people that are commenting on this are still on that side, and I don't know if they really have bought into it, or if it's just because of the likes and clicks, or if they just have no integrity. Like, I just don't know, or they're just not that bright. But so how long to digest food? And so, like, I'm wondering if they're going to be able to question Jen McCabe about this or not, because it kind of seems like when they tried it with her sister, with Nicole Albert. So they tried to question her about, they tried to show her the Celebrate report, and I think the judge or someone was like, have you ever looked at a Celebrate report before? And she's like, no. Do you know what you're looking at? And she's like, no. And so I think that might happen with Jen McCabe too. So because she's trying to say and I think, you know, we can foreshadow, or at least Lally should have look at that and be like, that's how they're going to deal with Jen McCabe too, probably. They're going to try to put the report in front of her and be like, look, this says that you did this and that, the other thing, you deleted all these things. But I don't think it's valid. Like, I don't think. So if I look at the data set, so this is like the narrative piece. So this is him walking through Jen McCabe stuff. I mean, the phone data, once we get into the Celebrate piece, I think it's going to be interesting, because I hope at that point we get to hear about what Karen was Googling that night and what she was doing, because that's going to be huge. I've heard, and I don't know because a lot of people say things, but I've heard that at 1 a.m. she called her brother and her father, which that would be pretty suspicious. And they always said that she went to bed and woke up, but in his opening statement, Yannetti said she was falling asleep off and on, which means her phone is probably active, and that's why he has to say that. So it's going to be interesting to see what she was doing all night, like where her mind was at, because I mean, the phone is like a look into your mind, like especially the Googles and stuff. So this is the goddamn thing that Ian Whiffen is going to have to deal with. How long to die in cold? And so all of these phone calls, how they're saying these are all deleted from Jen McCabe, the 911 call is here. And so what I opine is that because they're all in consecutive order, that these weren't deleted, that they're just archived. Like, it only keeps your most recent calls in the main screen of your phone. And then, like, the old ones are still there. They're just not in your recent call log anymore. And so that's what I opine happened here. And that's why they're consecutive. Because there's no mixed in deleted calls. So video call. So she talked. I mean, of course, she's talking to a lot of people. Like, imagine. And so this is John O'Keefe's phone. And so a lot of people, and I think maybe it was Turtle Boy that started it, but we don't know who actually made these incoming calls to him. I think Turtle Boy is saying it was all Jen McCabe, but I don't think so, because it doesn't align with what her phone shows. So that's, and then at one point they did say that there was a voicemail from Karen Reed at 12:41. So is that this one? I don't know. Or were they just saying that time wrong just for the hell of it? But it's like 12:41, there's two. And the last call that was answered, well, he called someone at 12:18. That's the call we know about, that he called Jen McCabe to get the address. And then this one was 8 seconds at 12:29, an incoming call. Which, I mean, it could have been from Jen McCabe. We just don't know. And I would assume, it's just strange how there's like this big break in phone calls. I wonder, I don't know. Because I thought that it did say in Karen's, in the probable cause, I think it said after 1 a.m. That's when she was leaving the phone calls or leaving the voicemails, but then they don't even have any after at 1 a.m. here. So it's like something fishy. And I think this whole Rick Green report is fishy in general. I think there's only certain stuff shown for a reason. But I mean, 5:04, that's after Karen started calling people. So this could be Carrie, it could be Jen, it could be whoever. And it's weird, like, why are they out of order? Like, this guy's sketchy. Like, why would it be out of order? It does not make any sense. This just seems so manipulated. It doesn't make sense to me, like, why they would be out of order at all. And then we have, and so I wonder if this is what we're going to see. So this is Karen Reed. And so they only show her morning phone calls. It's weird. So 7:21. So she kind of started calling, and it doesn't show her call to Jen McCabe, which I think was like 4:50 or something. But I think these are the calls where maybe they could track where she was driving to. I don't even know why he's showing this, to be honest. And so this is recently deleted. Is this the Jen McCabe media? Oh, so it's like a screenshot or something, which maybe she did delete it. Who knows? And then Jen McCabe. I just think it's so strange that so that's the thing that's so sketchy about this case, is that somehow the person on trial is not even the one that's getting crucified. It's like all of the witnesses, all their data's out there, all their information's out there. It's like, what in the world? And so her Apple Health step showing she's walking around. And I mean, I remember they originally said she was pacing around all night, but we know, like, I think the last thing on her phone was around 2:30. So that's probably when she went to bed. And then 4:55 is when Karen called. So she only like got up one time to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Like, that's not pacing around all night. It's just like they just mischaracterize everything. And I just can't wait for it to all come out. And then this is her heart. No, this is, oh, the distance, which I don't. So her heart rate. So if they were killing John inside the house at 12:45, her heart rate was the lowest it was all day. So she must be a real psychopath. Like, obviously nothing was going on. Like, her heart rate, like, she was in bed at this time. So even when she's sleeping, her heart rate was as low as when they were killing John inside the house. I mean, what in the world? So when she gets woken up, it spikes to a 97. She's driving at 5:41. And it's weird that there's this big gap. So it's 91 and then it's 122. And this is probably when she was running up the stairs and stuff inside the house to wake up her sister. And so, like, it makes sense because so Brian Albert testified that she was like hysterical and whatever. And that might be the case because she had to be the strong one in that situation with Karen. And as soon as, you know, her older sister and Brian Albert, she probably did start to break down. So I mean, that's naturally like what happens. Like, when kids have a hard time, as soon as they see their parents, they start crying. It's like, you stay strong in public, and then, you know, when people close to you, you start freaking out. So it's interesting. So I think the biggest thing in here is when he's talking about, it's not in the exhibits. It's like when he's talking about John O'Keefe's steps. This is slow for a minute. So conclusion, I think it's right. All right, so right around here. So this is going to be the big I mean, if they can rule out, if they can show with data that unequivocally he was never inside the house, I mean, it's all over. Then it's just a matter of, did she do it on purpose or not? Did she have intent? Is it manslaughter? Is it murder? So 1221 to 1224, I mean, that's the time in question. The 1231 to 1232, 36 steps. That could have been when he was hit. It could have been he got out of the car. Like, he might have taken a few steps before being hit with the car. I'm wondering if, you know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting when we start to like get the answers that we've been like wondering about for so long. Because I think he could have gotten out of the car. They could have been fighting. Like, he could have gotten out further down the street. I don't know. But the big thing here is that he says all that, but where does he say it? So right here, this is their own experts report, this last sentence. I want to highlight it. I don't know how to use this. So location data indicates that O'Keefe arrived at the Albert residence at 34 Fairview at 12:24 a.m. after the goddamn steps and the 3 flights of stairs. And so what I think is going to happen is Lally has been talking almost every single first responder. He verified you had to go down a big hill and because flights of stairs is calculated by like your change in elevation. And so I was in Seattle for a week and it was like, you climbed like 60 flights of stairs. I was like, what the hell? No, I didn't. But it doesn't know the difference. And sometimes even if you're in a car, it doesn't know the difference if you're going slow enough. And when you talk about health data, like I don't use that on Apple, so mine's not calibrated, so it's just going to say whatever. And an Apple Watch is a lot more accurate because it's calibrated to you. But Apple Health data, a lot of people never touch it. So it has some accuracy, but I was reading something that it's like it's accurate to a degree as long as you know the person was actually walking at the time, because it has a lot of false positives. So that's the whole thing. And so what they're going to try to prove is the Sartopo app. So Olivia, if you've ever seen her on X, she's all pro Karen Reed. She's completely, I don't know. I think she's bought and paid for because she seems like she's smart, but it's like, you have no integrity, because she is just totally on the side of Karen Reed. And she's talking about how CellHawk is the standard for mapping GPS coordinates and that they didn't use that in this case. And so, and she doesn't know why. And I was looking at it, and Sartopo, the app that they use to map his GPS coordinate points, is a search and rescue wilderness app. It's basically like a way to find people lost in the woods. And Canton is right near, like, it's a hilly area. Like, it's right near Blue Hills. And so the Sartopo app has terrain and elevation on it. So I have a feeling that they used that so that they can not only map his GPS coordinates, but they're going to be able to map his elevation. And it's going to clear this up right away. This goddamn ascending 3 flights of stairs. And then, you know, all doubts removed. I think people are already believing the Alberts. And I mean, that's only a couple of the witnesses. If you think about how many people were in the house that night, they're all going to say they never saw him come in the house. So, I mean, just from hearing at the Albert wife, I think most people are already believing that he never went inside the house. So I just don't know. I honestly don't understand why her attorneys are pushing this. I mean, there must be really good evidence that we don't know about, because she's spending $500,000 on her attorneys. And if there really was no evidence, like a lot of the cult is saying, there's no evidence, there's none. she wouldn't be spending $500,000 or $450,000 on attorneys. Why are you going to bankrupt your family? Like, if they have no evidence. I think that there's like really strong evidence that we don't even know what it is yet. So I think the Good Samaritan, there's admissions. There's at least 4 people from Good Samaritan that are testifying. Some of them are going to be about the blood alcohol. But hearsay is only allowed in certain circumstances, but admissions, it's allowed. And so in one of the pre-trial hearings, they brought up the Good Samaritan, the statements that she made, and Jackson was like, well, those are admissions. We know what the rules are, so we have to let them in. And so not only did she say, I hit him to all the first responders, but she said it to people in the hospital. And if we remember her father going on the news and saying, in the hospital, she said, Dad, I think I hit something and I was backing up. Like, that was such a damning statement to make that I just think that was to smooth over the real statement that she made. Similar to how she's saying, I said I hit him, followed by a did and a question mark or whatever the hell she said. Those were statements to kind of backtrack whatever the real statement was. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what she actually really said. Because, I mean, I just don't understand why they think this was a good idea. I mean, what was her... I mean, they must have offered her a plea deal, and she was probably like, no, I am not spending one day in jail. And I don't know. Or maybe it was a bad... I mean, I just don't know. Even if she's found guilty of murder too, what is that, like 20 years probably? But she's going to get exception. She's manipulative. She's going to get exception. Because she has MS, she's going to get special treatment, I'm sure. I think she's gotten special treatment in this entire case. I mean, she had the FBI helping her. Like, who gets that? Nobody. So, and even with the FBI coming in and trying to dig their feet into everything, the only thing that we got out of it were some conversations between personal phone calls from Proctor and maybe his wife, maybe to Julie Albert, but like nothing that changes the facts of the case, right? And I think that, and I just cannot believe that she would text something like that, but I think like the way that Yannetti said, yeah, and there was probably messages from her to me, which are not admissible, like he shouldn't have been able to see them, but I have a feeling that she was like saying, I did it by accident, or I didn't think that I hit him that hard, or whatever, something along those lines. And Proctor probably saw it, and so although it's not admissible in the trial, if they could show, I think there's problems for this case, whatever happens, just because of all the interference with the FBI and stuff. Because even if she's found guilty, and maybe there was something like that on her phone where she admitted it to Yannetti that she hit him, if they could prove that then Proctor saw that, and then Proctor like pursued her because of that, it's like the fruit of the poisonous tree. I mean, that could be trouble. That would be a way to get it dismissed. I mean, I just don't understand why she just didn't take responsibility for it. I mean, to re-victimize all these people, it's just unbelievable. I just can't imagine how she feels okay about this. Like, all these innocent people, like Jen and Kerry that were like trying to help her, they like targeting them, targeting Colin Albert, some innocent kid. Like, it's unreal. I mean, so her brother and her father not testifying, I think that's huge, because they could just be like, the taillight wasn't broken. And I think we were hearing a lot of that from her side, that the taillight wasn't broken. And every time that and you know, there's like a ring cam, I think it's ring cam, when her car is getting towed, but that's a video. And they decided to only give us that one snapshot of it at the point where you could kind of see inside the taillight a little bit, where it looked like the taillight was there. I mean, it's crazy that people, I mean, I just don't understand if people are like knowingly going along with this or if they just have no integrity. It's mind-boggling, but I think that people are starting to wake up, and I hope that there's more this week. I mean, I think that the dad and the brother aren't testifying because I think there's other pending criminal charges for the conspiracy with Turtle Boy, and I think that they're probably involved with that. And so anything that they say here could be used against them in that other case. And I mean, what are they going to say? The taillight's not broken, but we see it on video that it was already broken. You know, her brother and dad are not on the witness list unless it's changed. But I was surprised by that because they met her in the hospital. They went back to the house with her. So they could be like, no, she didn't go in and delete the ring cam. I was with her the whole time. But they're not saying that. They could be like, no, the taillight wasn't broken. The cops must have broken and planted it there. But they're not saying that. And I think that they're just afraid to... I mean, I think there's other stuff going on. Because they did seize her phone. I don't know if they ever gave it back. I think that that's probably still an issue. We're just not going to hear about it until this trial's over. So, I mean, I just think that for sure she's going to get at least manslaughter. The murder, we don't know. We just don't know. If they can really prove... Yeah. So the judge, I think... And so a lot of people that haven't been following this, even the law creators, they don't know all the BS that's been going on in this case. So they're like, why does she keep calling sidebars and why does she keep doing this? She's trying to keep these cases separate and trying not to muddy the waters because we do not want to have like all that stuff come in and completely muddy the waters of this case. I mean, because that stuff needs to be separate. And then you're going to have like testifying on top of testifying where they're going to be able to refer back to this trial. It just gets super messy and super confusing. And like even the stuff, like if you think about the stuff that her defense team is like picking on people for, like, oh, well, your statement that you made on February 2nd, you said you were sitting in this seat. Now you were sitting in this seat. It's like, I just don't think the jury is going to go for that at all. I mean, especially trying to argue with the paramedics when she's on TV saying I hit him and a bunch of paramedics heard it. It's like, why are they even wasting their energy on that? I thought the cops did a pretty good job. I mean, so Lank, I mean, they said that the fight could come in. So he got into a fist fight 20 years ago when he was in his 20s and Chris Albert was involved and he was sticking up for Chris Albert. And we had half a day to talk about that one day. And I was just like, why is this relevant? It is so not relevant. Something that happened 20 years ago. And Chris Albert is not Brian Albert. It's just so ridiculous. I do find it interesting that neither one of them want to testify for her either. I mean, I just think it's... What are they going to say? I mean, they're going to say... I don't know. What are they could say that she... I don't know, because she admitted it to everybody in the hospital. So, I mean, they're just going to either lie, commit perjury, or they're going to agree with the people in the hospital. So, yeah, the whole cover-up thing, like nobody... And like how he was talking about there's a train nearby. That would be where you would put a body, on the train tracks. Because the trains probably wouldn't see it. Maybe they would. I don't know. I don't think they would, though, especially if it's a high-speed train. So, I mean, if you really did want to kill somebody, that's what you would do with the body. And he's basically saying... So Brian Albert's saying that the train goes by like 5 times a day or something. And like he's pretty immune to it at this point because he's lived there for so long. Which is valid. If you're in a noisy area, you get used to it. And... So I don't even think there were sirens, though. I think the cops said there weren't any sirens because there was nobody on the street. It was a blizzard, so everyone was in their house. And They don't want to wake up the whole neighborhood. So, I mean, I just think a lot of them, so far, I think the Alberts have been vindicated a little bit by not coming out of the house. Like, I think it's perfectly clear that, you know, there wasn't enough commotion for them to hear it, and that Jen McCabe went in and woke them up. And then Brian Albert's response to that, asking, like, why didn't you come out of the house? He was saying that the scene was cleared, and he didn't think that it was a good idea for him to go out. And he was very, like, positive about how he said it too, because if he did go out, everyone would be accusing him of tampering with the scene. So, like, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think it's probably better that he didn't go out, because then everyone would be saying, oh, he went out and tried to control, like the way that Brian Higgins tried to insert himself a little bit. I mean, I think it's probably better that he stayed in the house. And then Brian Higgins, I feel like Brian Higgins, I mean, that's going to be interesting testimony, because he, like, went and talked to the officers and kind of was trying to get, like, the details, it sounds like. Not to really, I don't think he was trying to, like, change anything, but I mean, he was trying to date her, like, or she was trying to date him, like, a week ago, or a couple of weeks before. And he texted her at 12:22, I think it was 12:22, which is right before they got to the Alberts' house, according to this. I think it was 12:22. He texted her and said, okay. Probably because she was telling him that she was breaking up with John O'Keefe, and she was trying to hook up with him like a week before, 2 weeks before. And so that text coming at 12:22, I mean, it's going to be interesting what else happened on her phone, but I think that would be a reason why she would not want to go in that house, right? Like, is she going to be confronted? Like, I mean, that's probably what she was thinking. And then she's like, let's not go. Trying to talk him out of going. And he was like, why are you changing your mind? But yeah, I don't understand the whole, I mean, I understand, like, how they're like, oh, well, cops could have done this and done that, but I just don't think there's any evidence here of anything like that. I mean, her taillight was smashed out. There's video that it was damaged and smashed out, and then it was found at the scene. I mean, her phone data, we don't even know what that shows at this point. I think that Jen McCabe was trying to, like, stay calm too. I definitely agree with that. Nobody told 911 he was a cop. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it would have made a difference. Like, the dispatch. I think it was good that took the dispatch too. So the 911 call, the part that I found interesting was it sounded like Jen McCabe said we flipped him over, which would mean that's another lie that we've been told for a year that Karen's been pushing, that he was found on his back and his phone was underneath him. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to go into that house either. Imagine. I mean, I just don't know what she got so mad about, but I guess, like, when we hear the voicemails, we'll know. Like, who did she think he was cheating on her with? Because I think that's one of the things that she says to him in the text is like, I know you're effing another girl. Who was she thinking? Because it was only Jen McCabe, her sister, and kids, right? Like, there wasn't even, those are the only adults, I think. So was it Jen McCabe? But her husband was there. Both of their husbands were there. Like, I don't get it. I don't know if I would think to say that it was a police officer. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Chicks from the bricks. Like, if you are in a panic situation, everyone can't be hysterical. Like there's always someone has to be the rock. Someone's gonna be the crazy. Like someone's gonna be, and it sounded like Jen was the one that took charge because she was telling Carrie, you're gonna have to get off of him. So it sounded like Jen was the one that took charge, and she's a basketball coach, I think. She has young kids, so I mean, naturally, she probably fell into that role. Karen doesn't have kids. I mean, besides John O'Keefe's kids, which she just like ditched that day. So I wonder if they got something out of the back of Carrie's car, because the back of Carrie's car was open. So I think maybe Carrie had blankets or something back there. I just don't know why else her trunk would be open. She had jackets or something. Yeah, Jen was talking real panicky, but she was clear, so she wasn't like hysterical. But I think as soon as she saw her sister and the husband, she probably started breaking down. Yeah, I mean, the whole cover-up thing just doesn't make sense. Especially, so the train tracks, like that's where you would put a body. And I mean, then it would have been no problem, right? They don't have to frame anyone. You put them on the train tracks, the train hits them, and you're just like, oh, he must have got drunk and got hit by a train. End of story. But the thing is, like, even if he was killed inside the house, they're not just going to put him out there with all their DNA all over him. And just with no explanation, right? Like, that's the stupidest cover-up ever. So I think that Brian Albert's going to be the first one that's going to be cross-examined. And I heard, I don't know if it's true, that Caitlin Albert is next after Brian Albert. And Caitlin Albert is, they're just going to question her the same way. Like, when did you do this? It's going to be boring. It's going to be boring until we get to find out about Karen's phone, the black box, and Jen and Carrie. Because that's when we're going to really hear the details about what happened, what was said. Because if you think about what we know is only what they put in that first arrest warrant, and it was very limited. So it was like a few statements. Like Carrie, she called Carrie and said, John's dead, he got hit by a plow, and then hung up. And then she called her back or something. And so I think Jen was with her. I don't know. So I just don't understand how they all ended up at Jen's house. Because, like, I think Karen said that the roads were too bad, or someone said the roads were too bad, so that she went back to John's house and started calling people. So it sounds like she already went out once, but I don't see tire tracks in the ground. So I wonder if she took his convertible. That's one theory I have. That would be, I mean, it's out there, but the reason being is because Lally had a picture of the convertible and was talking about it the first day. And Paul O'Keefe was like, oh, we love that car. That's the other car that was on the other side of the garage. And I think he said Kaylee hated it. And it was just weird that I'm like, what? Why is he saying Kaylee hated it? Does that mean like Kaylee would never take it out and drive it? But Kaylee, I think, is too young to drive. Anyway, I don't know. It was just a weird thing. And that picture was put into evidence with John O'Keefe in the car. So I don't know. I wonder if there's something with that. If she tried to take it out because she didn't want to take her cracked up car, and maybe like the keys to his other car were on him, so like maybe, or she couldn't find them maybe. I believe that the shoe and the taillight fragments were all found right in the general same area. Like, I don't know how far from him, but I would assume the shoe usually stays closer to where the accident happened, and I would think the taillight fragments also. So probably he wasn't that far from the street, so probably within like 5 or 6 feet of him. Yeah, I think that the witnesses in general, I've been seeing that about his belts missing. I have no idea if that's true or not or what. That would mean that it might just not have been, if they didn't unloop it from his pants, they just might not have checked it separately into evidence. That was like my initial thought. It might have just been with the pants. So I think the belt or whatever, someone's is saying that the belt isn't on the evidence list or isn't on the clothing list. So I don't know if it's really missing or not. Yeah, I would think they would have cut the belts. They would have just cut the clothes right up the middle. Yeah, it might just not have been listed. So in the Dateline interview, when she's talking about driving within the 2 square miles, she says that she did that before calling Jen and Kerry. And that's just so weird to me. So like, because we know that, well, the cameras that caught her going towards the 34 Fairview was on the way to Jen's house. So like at 5:05, that's when we see her pulling out of the driveway. She was texting that woman, Camarano, at like 5:15, 5:20. And I think that's when she was near 34 Fairview, when they say like she might have went back to the house. And then I don't know what time she got to Jen McCabe's. But all of these, everything's like really close. Like I think nothing is more than 10 minutes apart from each other. Yeah, I mean, the missing belt, like it's a conspiracy. Maybe it's that belt that, did you see that woman that got attacked by that belt? Like someone came up behind her in New York City and like it was Gotham City and just dragged her down the street with the belt. They caught the guy. But it was like a pretty shocking surveillance video. Yeah, so I think the reason, I just don't know if she went all the way back to the body or not. The center console, I've heard that it's like you can shut off the automatic braking. I don't know if that's true though. I don't know why they would say to focus on that. Tom Beatty is another one of John's friends, and I thought that Jen called him because Jen knows that he never went in the house, and he's another person in Canton that John's friends with. So she was thinking he could be with him. I wonder if Karen drank afterwards. Like, I'm just like wondering, like, when did she get drunk? Maybe she was drinking all those 9 drinks. Or maybe she just drinks all the time. You know how some people, if they drink a lot, they never really seem drunk. I don't know if she's one of those. She might be. So Tom Beatty. What is it about Tom Beatty? I know he's on the defense's witness list and not on Karen's witness list. So the receipt for the 9 drinks. So the one receipt that we have from Waterfall shows just 1 vodka. I think that we haven't seen the McCarthy's. They haven't focused on McCarthy's too much. I wonder why they haven't shown that. Like, they did show the video when we were talking to Camarano, and I have a feeling that it's all of the pieces are going to be put together when it's either Bukkake or Proctor. Because at that point, they're going to be like, well, I looked here and this is what I found. Like, I went to the McCarthy's, I saw the video, and I have this receipt. I just don't know. I just don't know why she's trying to, like, if she was drunk, why doesn't she just say she was drunk? Like, I mean, I feel like that helps her, if anything. Yeah, I think there was 7 drinks at McCarthy's, and then they estimate it was 1 or 2 drinks at Waterfall, but they only have a receipt for 1. I don't think we can really even see people buying drinks there. I know, like, at McCarthy's, it was like she got 1 drink when she got there, and then she was buying shots and pouring them into her drink. So it definitely wasn't water. Yeah, so I think the reason that Lally is doing it this way is because the troopers, I mean, I would put Yuri on to tell most of the story. Because, I mean, Michael Proctor, they're just going to hammer him with all this, like, peripheral stuff. I think that, yeah, it's going to be like, I talked to this person this day, I put these pieces together, you know, we got the voicemails, we got this at this time, we saw the coordinates. They're going to be the ones that kind of connect all the pieces, all the evidence. So I think it's going to be probably more witnesses first. I just really want to hear from Carrie and Jen McCabe, because I just want to understand. I mean, I want to understand what actually went on that morning in the knees, but I also want to know how she hit him, because I've been thinking about it. Like, someone said something about the fire hydrant, and I'm like, that actually does make sense, that maybe she threw him and his head hit the fire hydrant, and that could have split the back open. But I don't know. Like, looking at the car and his injuries, and it would seem like his arm hit the thing, but I don't see a bruise on his arm. So it's just like, I don't know. I was thinking just because, like, that taillight does come out more than everything else. And, like, in order to break that taillight, because it's so high, it has to be like a branch or an arm or something. Like, it can't be a hard surface, because the bumper would be messed up first. And so also, because he doesn't have lower body damage, like his legs and stuff, I think his, like, arm, I don't know. I think he was walking towards the house away from her, and she aimed it at him and hit him, and that's like the lines that you see in his arm. And then his head, he either spun and hit the front of his head, or he hit the back of his head on the car. So that could have been the fracture. But I don't know if he was, well, the thing with Carrie, and I want to know if he was laying on his face, and I want to know if he was covered in snow, because I think that he was. It sounds like it. Just the way that Karen kept asking people, how long can you be in the snow without a jacket? Like, it sounds like he was, like, in the snow, like under the snow, and which makes it even more suspicious. Like, how could she see him? Because they couldn't even see him when he was already, like, uncovered, and they were giving him mouth to mouth. I was thinking his head could have hit something else too, but I just feel like we would have heard about that. Like, they would have been able to, like, they would have saw that fire hydrant. I mean, unless they just kept it, like, secret. I don't think that it would be like a thump, like the noise hitting someone. It would just be a thump. Like, it would not make a lot of noise. It'd be like a snap. Well, the glass broke, so that probably would have been the biggest of the noise. It's the taillight breaking and the glass breaking. I have not seen Innocence Fraud, Timeline of a Cop Killer. Yeah, I wonder if he stumbled, or like what, or if he was just thrown and he was just done right away. I just can't imagine. Because, I mean, if she wasn't that drunk, did she just drove away? Like, it's just so bizarre. I think the McCarthy's bar tape shows her getting, I don't think they went through it. It showed her getting 1 or 2 drinks, I think, what we've seen. Yeah, the 911, I haven't heard the cleaned up version of the 911 call, but it does sound like she said we flipped him over. Which means that everything that we heard for like a year is a lie. The fight that happened in the house. What fight? Yeah, I think she was in a rage. I think that's what it was. I think she didn't want him to go. She got the text from Brian Higgins. She was trying to hook up with 2 weeks before. She thought she was going to get confronted. She did not want to go in the house. She was trying to convince him not to go. And he's like, I'm going or whatever. He got out of the car. Maybe she drove away. Like, she must have started to drive away and then, I guess, backed into him. So I just don't know if he fell. Because, I mean, he could have been stepping out of the car and she floored it while he was stepping out of the car. So he fell and he was already on the ground. And then he was trying to get up as she slammed it in reverse and, like, reversed into him. I wonder, because if she did make all those phone calls to him, she couldn't have thought that he was dead, right? She couldn't have thought she hurt him that bad. She probably just thought, I mean, I don't know what you would think. I would never hit someone with a car and think like nothing happened to them. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Because she's not even, I just don't, like, his call log makes no sense, like what we see of it. Because if she hit him at, so what Alali said in the opening statement was 12:46 was like the key cycle. Like, that's why they think the key cycle showed that she reversed 60 feet at 12:45 or 46. So like this time. And so someone was calling him at that exact time. But it's like, would she start calling him? It's so weird. And we don't know who these calls are. It could be Jen McCabe calling him. I think Turtle Boy is saying that these are all Jen McCabe, but I don't know how you would know that. It's only showing incoming. And then the 12:41. I don't know. I just don't know. But this report is just so sketchy. The way that they just have all the pieces all mixed up. Like, this one's in order. I just don't know why it would not be in order. Which one was that? This is Jen McCabe's. So that's the big thing. These deleted ones, like, I just don't believe that they were deleted just because they're all in order. The 911 call, why would she delete that? It just doesn't make any sense. I think it's just archived phone logs. It must be a later one. So Apple Watch, Apple data. A deleted screenshot. How's Long to Die in Cold? I guess this is Karen Reed's phone. Like, I just don't understand this one. Like, she only made this many calls. Like, that's suspicious. Or so like, I don't believe that's true at all. Like, because Jen McCabe's call's not on here either. I don't know. It's weird. I think the medical examiner said that there weren't any puncture wounds in general. Like it was all impact abrasions. So that would rule out canines. And they tested the clothing for canine DNA. Public occultist. I think that too. I think that, yeah, when they're not in your recent calls anymore, it's marked as deleted, which is not correct. It's just, they just put this out to make things look suspicious. I mean, this call log from Karen Reed, this is just the sketchiest thing, because it's like, why are they even showing this? Unless it has to be Karen. I mean, it says K Reed. It doesn't make any sense though. John O'Keefe's. I would think that as soon as she started driving away, maybe she started calling him. Unless these calls are to him, I don't know. I really have no idea. A lot of people are calling him though. Look at Jen McCabe's call log. This is iPhone. John O'Keefe health data steps. So 611, 604 to 611. So, I mean, I feel like it could be registering steps just from them giving him CPR, the bouncing up and down. It could be thinking that steps if it was under him. It doesn't necessarily mean someone picked it up right away. And, you know, they'll have experts that are going to tell us what it actually means. And this is, the flights of stairs. So 3 flights of stairs before he even got to Fairview. I mean, that was like the biggest thing that triggered me like in August, was that because them saying that he was inside the house walking around, that and the house long to die in cold, that's what kind of sold me on the conspiracy at first. Because I mean, I try to start with the undisputable facts, and then, you know, it's eyewitness testimony and all the other things. But I thought those were undisputable facts because of the way they presented them, and it was anything but. I'm trying to find Jen McCabe's call log. I can't find it. But this whole report that he wrote is just, there's just so many pieces that are purposely excluded. I just don't think it's... Oh, maybe it wasn't hers. It was... Like, this one just looks so manipulated, because why is this 459 phone call in there? It's John O'Keefe's. So, because all of these things just come out in order, they don't reorder themselves. So, like, to me, this just means that this is not a valid report, that someone did something, because there's no reason why this call would just be in the middle here. It's weird. And then there's no calls after 1 a.m. And that's when it says she left all those voicemails after 1 a.m. So like that whole, it's really weird, because those are the hours too that the ring cam's missing. Is between, I think it's between 12 and 5 a.m. So did she get into his phone? Like, I don't know what the deal is. Maybe she could have. I mean, maybe that's what they're going to try to say, is that she was in his phone and deleted the stuff from here or something. I don't know. It seems sketchy. Because this is the Rick Green's report. Like, why is this call out of order? And like, we know she called, because this would mean that she called Jen McCabe before she even called John. That does not make sense. Because she called Jen McCabe at like 4:55 or something. So that would mean she didn't even call John yet. And she called Jen McCabe first and then started calling John. And then I think she called Carrie at like around 5 and said John's dead. So, unless that's accurate, but that's strange as hell. Because, like, why would she not call him first? And this is Karen Reed's. So this is like, there's a bunch of stuff deleted. I think because, like, why did her start at 5:05 a.m.? Like, her call to Jen McCabe's not on here. That call that we just saw to John, I assume that could be from someone else, though, because at that point she had already called Jen McCabe, so it could be from Jen McCabe trying to call, or the niece. I don't know. This whole thing is sketchy. These phone records, though, I think it's going to be huge whenever we get into it, because what they put here is just so, I think it's just, to me, it's like obvious that it's like manipulated. There's stuff picked out that they just wanted to show, and then they wanted to hide certain things and make things look a certain way. And so that's why I kind of was like alerted. That's when I started like questioning. And then I went back and read through everything again. And that's when I was like, there's no way this is a frame job. And it was really like, the way that they presented this in court was not. So it says that it appears that the first location ping in the neighborhood near the Albert residence occurs at 12:19. And so in court, and you can go back to it, it's probably the April hearing. Alan Jackson saying at 12:19, that's when he arrived. And so he's saying, but it specifically says here, the neighborhood at 12:19, he arrived at the Albert residence at 12:24. So Alan Jackson says 12:19, he arrives, and then 12:21 to 12:24, he's taking all these steps and going up all these stairs. But his own expert's report says he did not get to the house till 12:24. So I just don't even know how it's going to go, like how this guy's going to testify. Like, I just feel like they really wanted to get this thrown out prior to going to trial. And I think they did everything they could to poison the well. I think they thought that if they got enough dirt and they used the FBI, I don't know how they accomplished that, but if they got enough dirt that the Commonwealth would just want to like dismiss it just to avoid them dragging everyone through the mud. But I think the Commonwealth's like, no, screw you. We know she did it. Like, we're going to trial. Yeah. Karen was invited, and then she was on that show saying I wasn't invited. I think Gretchen Voss, there's probably a lot more stuff in the Gretchen Voss testimony. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff in there. Because even the stuff, and this is why, I think those interviews, this is why they don't want her to be on the stand. Because even in those simple interviews that her attorneys probably were there for and probably prepped her for, she did not come off well. I don't think she said things right. Like, in one breath, she's saying, I saw him walk up to the door. And then in the next breath, she's saying, I thought I could have incapacitated him, and he was so drunk that he just fell and passed out. And it's like, that doesn't even make any sense. And then she said that she had a cracked taillight. She didn't look at the damage. And it's like weird that there's just a lot of specific things that you can tell that she was coached to say in those interviews. Like, she saw him walk up to the door, but as he got to the door, she looked down at her phone. So she was coached to say that for whatever reason, she didn't see him go in the house. Probably because, the phone data doesn't support it. So I don't know. They're trying to leave the door open to be able to say something else. And then she didn't look at the damage of the cracked taillight. I mean, that's just a weird thing to say. But then she told Jen and Kerry about it. So they both looked at it. Like, that doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. Like, you're going to look at your own damage before. And why is she even bringing it up? Like, that would be the last thing on my mind if I really thought, like, my significant other was dead in the snow. I would not, if I backed, I wouldn't even give a shit. I wouldn't mention it to anybody. If I, like, backed in his car or whatever, smashed out part of my car, I would not even care. So it's just weird that she's bringing it up. She's bringing it up in the hospital. Like, obviously, she was just thinking that she was going to get away with saying she was drunk and it was an accident. I think. I mean, and then it changed because they upped the charges to murder. Yeah, Nightline, and then the other one with that guy in the morning show. I think the Nightline interview, though, that one, I mean, she admitted that she said I hit him. So it's like, why are they going after all these paramedics? She already admitted it. They're going to show that at trial, I'm sure. I mean, the jury's going to be like, what in the world? Yeah, so Nightline and the Gretchen Voss. So the Gretchen Voss interview, I read that recently. And I just think it shows that Karen's a mastermind. It said that Karen was up on her computer late at night and started, like, looking through all of Proctor's pictures on Facebook, and she found one with Colin Albert in the wedding. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, so that's what her defense became? Like, it's just bizarre. It's so bizarre. So she's saying that she thought she hit him until she saw that picture of Colin Albert in the wedding with Michael Proctor or something. And then she remembered that Colin Albert was drinking beers or throwing beers in the lawn or something. And that's when she put all the pieces together. So she basically came up with this conspiracy. And, like, I just don't even think that makes sense. Like, it's not even a good motive. Like, even if Colin Albert was the biggest punk in the world, I don't know if he is. But, I mean, he was a football player, so I'm sure that he has some, tough guy attitude. Like, I'm sure that he does. But that is very different than confronting one of your parents' friends inside your uncle's home who's a Boston cop and trying to fight them. Like, that just would never, ever, ever happen. Like, unless the kid's crazy. And I just don't think he is. I don't even see why he would be mad at John O'Keefe. If anything, John O'Keefe would be mad at the kid. But either way, like, even if John O'Keefe really was a Nebuchadnezzar, Horace Nebuchadnezzar, or curmudgeon, he would not be so angry. Like, he wouldn't be harboring resentment towards the kid that cut across his lawn 2 years ago, or like 3 years ago, whenever the hell it happened. The testimony. So I think it might come in through Gretchen Voss, because Gretchen Voss is testifying. Oh, so that was the thing that I discovered. So the whole thing with Carl Dougal and Karen, apparently they bumped into each other. It seemed to be an accident, but then Karen bum rushed Gretchen Voss and pushed Gretchen Voss. And Karen said that it was because she was scared trying to get away from Carl. And so the whole thing just sounds weird and crazy. The whole Aruba thing, they were trying so hard. And whatever she was saying about Kerry in the ambulance, they wouldn't let that in. And like, she was like bad mouthing Kerry or something. But I feel like, why not let that in? Like, I mean, I guess it's hearsay. No. She was saying it to them, so it's not hearsay. It's just weird. Because I feel like that shows, a pattern. If she was, like, angry, if her emotions would change that quick, I mean, I think that shows a pattern, right? It shows that, yeah, she could be all happy and lovey-dovey with him at the bar, and then a few minutes later, freak out. She can be crying about the boyfriend and all that, and then a few minutes later, just be real catty and nasty about Carrie, who got out of bed and helped her that morning. So I just think that they have to kind of show. I mean, if the Aruba incident, if that's the only, I mean, it seems like that's going to be the only thing that they're allowed to show. Because they just objected to everything when she was saying anything about Carrie, which I just found odd. But the Aruba thing, I don't understand. She thought she saw him kissing someone, but everyone else said that he was hugging this girl, and she just got insanely jealous and crazy and started threatening the girl. Oh yeah, I did forget about that. Stephanie P. saying that Gretchen Voss, so they're supposed to be sequestered, so they shouldn't be able to watch the trial if they're testifying. And the exceptions were like Paul O'Keefe, like her family, like his family, are the only ones that should be allowed to testify. I thought Gretchen Voss was testifying though. Interesting. I wonder if there's an exception for press. I don't know. I don't think there was, though. I think she would have had to say that. Oh, that stinks that she's not on the list. Maybe, I don't know. I thought she was. Yeah, that thing, her saying that she felt taken advantage of, I just don't know what her lawyers were thinking putting all that out there. Because I know that they were there with her, coaching her. Like, what were they thinking? And then the father going on TV and saying, like, she thought she hit something. I think it's because of all of her admissions. They needed to, like, explain it, I guess. I just don't know if it actually helped or not. I mean, I do think all that press did. I don't know. I honestly don't know if it helped her, because I know a lot of people that thought she was guilty after those interviews. I mean, I had already kind of changed my mind on her guilt or not, but everything that I saw after that, those interviews, everything, I was just like, yep, I'm still right. Like, yeah, she's guilty. Those interviews, she just did not seem, she was talking kind of hateful about John O'Keefe. Yeah, I think in one of her first arraignments, Yannetti says that Karen had a brain tumor, and it was because of this case, I think. I think he said she was getting like really bad headaches, and like she found out she had a brain tumor. Like, is that true though? So usually if they do take the stand, it will be like the last thing in it, like the Alex Murdaugh trial. It's like the last resort. If the defense thinks they're losing, they might call her to the stand. If they think there's just things that need to be explained. I don't think she comes off well, though, so I really don't think it would be a good idea. But I mean, she could come off better. If they're going to show those interviews, I don't know. She's going to have an attitude. If she's getting like questions, like, I mean, I think it would be entertaining as hell if she took the stand. I mean, what was that girl? Anytime like criminal defendant takes a stand, it's extremely riveting. And it's usually for days. So they might have her take it if they get to the point where they think they're losing. I just don't know what their strategy really is. So the defense is just going to like be critical and try to like catch people in lies for everything, and not really lies, but like they're going to just find inconsistencies. And I just don't feel like anyone came off as lying. Jodi Arias, that's who I was thinking of. She testified, I think, for 2 weeks or something. And her whole defense changed multiple times. I think she said originally that she wasn't even there. And then she took a picture. She killed the boyfriend, and then she took a picture, and there was a reflection of her in the picture, and she didn't realize it. And then she turned it into he was abusing her. And that's what her like testifying was, basically saying that he was abusing her, I think. I don't know. She just was not. She came off a lot better than Karen Read does, though. Like Jodi Arias, I think, comes off really nice. And the first interviews I've ever seen of Jodi Arias, I was like, oh, she's innocent. I didn't know any of the story. I just saw her talking to an interviewer, and she's just soft-spoken, and she seems nice until I saw what the hell she did, and I was like, oh my God. I would never suspect that, though, from her demeanor. And Karen's like, I don't know. Karen just, she comes off as kind of bitchy a little bit, but like, I don't know. I also don't see, I guess I don't see people as killers in general. I do think that Karen's super manipulative. I mean, look at all these people behind her. I mean, it's insane that, I mean, I think it's dwindling. I think it's starting to turn. But I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I think that Karen Read's similar to like a Casey Anthony than Jodi Arias. Jodi is, yeah. Casey Anthony, I think it was like, I don't know what happened with Casey Anthony either, if it was on purpose or an accident. I think that was the question, and that's why she ended up being found not guilty. I mean, she was a liar, a manipulator, and she just didn't seem to care. And I feel like Karen's coming off that same way. But she still was found not guilty, so I don't know. Yeah, Casey Anthony. I mean, the fact that Casey Anthony even came out and did that documentary again and started like doubling down on all the stuff, like her father molested her and stuff, and the parents took a lie detector. If you haven't seen that, it's extremely interesting. Because they passed a lie detector test, and I mean, it's unbelievable what she said about them. I don't think Karen wanted John to die. I don't know if Casey Anthony wanted her daughter to die either, necessarily. I think she just wanted, she was selfish. And I mean, I want people in this case to be vindicated, because I think a lot of people have been like really dragged, and I think it's awful. And I think that, you know, people need to wake up, and like, if you're going to get involved in something like this, like you need to pay attention and not just act as someone's puppet. Yeah, Karen. So, I mean, I think that's going to be the deciding factor. So Karen didn't call 911, but she was also leaving all those voicemails. So in those voicemails, she didn't think that he needed 911. I would assume, unless I just don't know. I mean, honestly, I feel like everyone would have supported Karen if she was, even if she was like admitted what she did and she was like, it's an accident or whatever. I think that all these people would have still like supported her, because they all seemed to like her. But instead she like turned on all of them. She made this case about being critical of everyone else, and she's the She's actually the perpetrator, and she's turned this into a trial of all of the witnesses. And it's bizarre. Yeah, the whole cover up. I mean, the Steve Scanlon thing, I think that Yannetti should be held accountable for in open court saying that Steve Scanlon came to him and named Colin Albert. Because then Turtle Boy called Steve Scanlon, and Steve Scanlon did not know who Colin Albert was. I just think that's such a huge mischaracterization of what was said. And I think even him saying, oh, and we know Colin Albert had a Ford Edge, and the whole audience claps. Like, I just think stuff like that is just like so disgraceful for an attorney to do. And like, you could see Karen Reed's father clapping in the background. Like, they know that that's not true. And even the Ford Edge, oh yeah, the Lucky Lawford testimony, whenever that comes, that will be interesting. I don't know if Lally's going to be good at cross-examining people. I hope he is. Yeah, I mean, chick from the bricks. Yeah, I think that's why John's family knows that she did it, is that she just cut off all communication with them and the kids, and, you know, didn't make plans for the funeral, because she wasn't arrested till 48 hours later, 3 days later. So a normal person, I mean, anybody else, like, if your loved one dies, you're definitely hanging out with the family, and you don't just like screw. Like, that's just not, nobody does that. Yeah, Scanlon, I mean, that whole thing is just so gross. I mean, I think that people in the beginning, when there was a body found outside the house, I think that people were saying, did think, oh, it could be a fight. Like, I mean, it was probably a rumor in the town at the time, and I think they exploited that rumor. So they got a TPO. What's a TPO? Temporary, I don't know. I know that they had a stay away order from Karen Reed, but that didn't go into effect until 48 hours later. So for 2 days, she should have been talking to the family if she was if she was an innocent person. Yeah, Jackson does represent a lot of scummy people. The family, I don't know if the family kept her out or if it was because she was arrested. Once she was arrested for the murder, she was kept out. But that was still 2 days later. It wasn't the same day. It wasn't the next day. It was after 2 days. So for those first 2 days, she should have been in contact with those kids. She knows what their schedules are. I mean, I assume she did. If she really did take care of them as much as she claims she did. They did have her phone, but I'm sure she got a new one right away. And I'm sure she had Messenger. She had ways to talk to people. Yeah, the whole nudes thing, I don't know if it's true. Or, I mean, I don't even know. Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. So when she went back to the house, like when we heard Paul O'Keefe's testimony, she called him and was like, can I come to the house and see the kids? And he was like, sure. And so as soon as they pull up, she just starts her car immediately and goes in the house. She had no intention of staying there for long. She didn't give a shit about those kids. And then she just goes in and comes out within 10, 15 minutes with the bag, with one single bag. And why would her father need to be up in the bedroom? And that's sketchy. Right. Tiger Lily girl. I agree with that. I think, like, why did that change? That she was pissed at him, saying that he was cheating, to concern, oh, he must be dead. Like, how did that change? Unless something happened. And, like, her call logs and her phone and all that, it's like, I just don't know where they're even, like, at what point did she remember? Or was she in such a rage that she was kind of blacked out and she, you know, fell asleep or partially fell asleep, and then she remembered when she woke up? Yeah, I think she's, I mean, I wonder if anyone else is going to testify from the family. Probably not. I just wish that so that's what I'm wondering too, if Voss is going to testify. Would she be in the press pool? I don't think she would be. I know I had a list of the witnesses at some point. Where would that be? I want to look at that witness list. I thought she was on it. So, yeah, I don't think she would be able to be in the press pool. I wonder who else is on call. Yeah, I was always positive that I saw her on the list too. I wonder if there's an exception for press, but I feel like... But at the same time, it's like, what do they... Like, I understand what the rule is. They're sequestered. They're not allowed in the courtroom if they're testifying. But at the same time, they could be watching court TV, and I'm sure that they all are. So does it even really matter? I just don't know why. I mean, I feel like it's an olden times thing. Like, it was an old law. Because now it's like, if it's broadcast on TV, what does it matter if you're in the courtroom or not? Oh, good. Like, I'm glad, because I really do want to hear her testimony. I know she's been getting threats for telling the truth. I mean, that's the biggest threat to Karen Read, is anyone that's going to tell the truth. And you could see by a lot of these people, like, they do not want to say anything bad about her because they do not want to get harassed by the mob. I mean, I hope that she does get calls, because I feel like that's just another person that she admitted things to that don't make any sense. I mean, her stories have never aligned. Her stories have never made sense, and I just think, at what point are we gonna... I mean, how are we gonna sell that story that it's like all the paramedics, everyone at the Good Samaritan, all, like, Gretchen Voss, all these interviews that she gave. And I mean, it's not even normal to give interviews. Usually your attorneys tell you don't talk to anybody. But in this case, they were trying to do something different. So when I first read the Gretchen Voss interview, I honestly thought it was not bad at all. Like, for Karen, like, I thought it was, like, too much, like, because it was taken like, oh, like, she just woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, did she though? Like, it was written really from Karen's perspective, and I thought that was, like, too much. But when it came out, then the mob was like after Gretchen Voss. I don't even know why, because I thought it was a very fair, balanced article, almost too fair. And so like, it's like, what does she want? She wants propaganda only. Like, it's Turtle Boy like articles that are just completely one-sided. That's what she thought she was going to get. That's weird. I mean, I think that people just want to. I mean, I think that the problem is that corruption exists, and it was happening during the OJ trial too, where the Rodney King thing happened, and police officers weren't held accountable, and you know the black community did not feel like they could get justice, and so that underlying negative feeling about police officers at the time helped OJ. And I think right now we're kind of, I don't know if it's specifically police officers, but I think it's like government in general. People are just like distrustful of the government. And so that's, people love conspiracies. I mean, there's a lot of really wild conspiracies, but I think that people need to start like, you just can't believe everything you see on the internet. You have to like know how to look into it and know how to validate it, and you can't just be a puppet for people, because then you're part of the conspiracy. It's like you're part of a cover-up. Like most of the free Karen people, you are part of a conspiracy. Like you don't like conspiracies, but you're part of it, and they just don't get it. I agree about the creators. I didn't realize that people, I don't know if they're really buying into it, or if it's because it's the popular side, or maybe I just need to be more balanced. I don't know. Most cases when I talk about them, I talk about both sides. Like each thing that comes out, it's, you know, the benefit of this side versus this side. But this case is different, because this case, they're attacking innocent people. And I just feel like you can't be a part of that. Like you have to stand up for what you can see is right? Because I think there's just too much on the side of her side that is ruining people's lives. Like, it's not just John O'Keefe as the victim. It's like every single person that he's been friends with or his family members have been victimized in this. And it's like ongoing. And they must be so stressed out, because just hearing some of the stuff, like the solo cups and them bringing up the goddamn Google search, like I could see his mother's face, like getting so pissed, because it's like, it's such bullshit. And like the dog and like Chloe getting out of the yard, like it's just so ridiculous. And it's not the truth. Talk on the net, it's not the truth. The truth is, think about what the truth is. Was there 1 inch of snow? Was there only 6 drops of blood? All of these lies that you've been fed for a year, aren't you realizing now that, you know, they were lying to you the whole time? You're not paying attention? Like, you're not realizing that everything they sold you has been a lie? Like, when are you going to wake up? But I digress, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But hopefully, so we'll see the Alberts. Maybe it's Brian Albert and Caitlin Albert tomorrow, and then if we're gonna see like more and more of these kind of witnesses, it's gonna be not that exciting, because I don't think none of them saw anything. Like, he didn't go inside the house, so it's gonna be like, I went to this house at this time, I drive this kind of car, I knew Brian Albert at this point, I met Karen Reed this one time. It's going to be pretty boring. But the cross-examinations, I don't know. I just think if they keep cross-examining people the way that they are, it's going to turn the jury off from everybody, because it's just so gross to harass these people like that. The O'Keefe family is 1000% positive that Karen did it. They know that she did it. So there's that. And everyone of their mutual friends knows that she did it. But have a good night. I'm going to log off, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Thanks for joining. We'll have more to talk about this week, I'm sure.